left Toronto City on a train eastward bound, heading for Newfoundland and my old...
In 1969, many classic songs were recorded around the world. One of those classics came from a Yarmouth, Nova Scotia native recording artist. Hi, I'm Wade Cleveland with Harbour Sound Entertainment. Join me as I interview Yarmouth's very own chart-topping artist, Roger Bourque.
I had a vision, love, I thought that I saw you. You were standing right in front of me. You set my heart a whirl. I'm going home to marry me a new figure.
I'm Wade Cleveland, and I'm joined by Roger Bourque, who really has a great story. We're going back in time for some real music history here, back to the late 60s and early 70s. Roger, thanks for talking to us.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me about, you were born and raised here, tell me about getting to Ontario before we get any further with what you did when you were there. What led you to Ontario? Were you chasing a music dream?
I had a car accident. And I had a business in Tuscot. And my uncle came home from Ontario. And my wife said, why don't you go for a holiday? Because I had a bad collarbone and hips. And so I went with him to Ontario for a holiday. And when I got there, I got a job. So 3 months later, I came back and picked the wife up and 2 kids and we moved.
Is that right?
That was, 1960.
Okay, so where did the music come in? Were you doing it just kind of as a side hustle?
I had another accident. I was running a sales office in Kitchener, Ontario, which is about 60 miles from Toronto and out west. Mm-hmm. And I was running a sales office, and it was in the middle of winter, 3 days after Christmas. My mother and father-in-law were home. And I was on the way home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because they were going home the next day. I stopped at a traffic light. It was a blizzard. And in Ontario, when a light changes amber, 3 cars have time to go through it. Mm-hmm. So when the light changed amber, I stopped. And there was a tractor trailer behind me with 45,000 pounds. Bingo. And in those years, it was a high bumper, so the trunk took most of the impact. And that put me off work for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a broken back.
All right.
So after my operations, I couldn't go back to what I was doing. And I was playing at a party. And a guy said to me, he said, why don't you join my band? I said, I beg your pardon? Yeah, he said, you're good. You join my band. So I did, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And it came out that the leader of the band passed away. And then I got my own. And a guy came to me and said, why don't you record a record? And I said, well, yeah, what's that going to cost me? He said, nothing. He said, I'll produce, I'll do it. So we did. We recorded, and that's how the recording started.
Simple as that.
Simple. Well, it's long. It's a lot of years, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, back then, even here, there was a lot more opportunity to play. And in Toronto in the late 60s, early 70s, that was a hotbed of music. Yeah. You could play pretty much any day of the week.
No musician was out of work. And 85% of the musicians were from the East Coast.
Now, out of Toronto, about how many clubs are we talking where you could play? You could play at thousands.
There was 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 clubs. Nobody was out of work.
Okay.
A lot of them were mostly country.
So you were playing that many times? You were playing, 6 times a week?
Well, we're playing 6 nights a week.
Yeah? Now tell us about going to the recording and recording Newfie Girl, which is a song that perhaps our listeners here watching might not have heard of, but that was a hit back then.
That was funny. I had a friend of mine who played guitar, and he was always at my house with these songs that he wrote. So we were going to record the next morning, and the doorbell rang at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I got up, went to the door, and it was Bill Sweeney, this friend of mine. He said, Roger, he was stoned out of his mind, might as well say. Guitar in one hand, tape recorder in the other hand. You got to hear this. I said, Bill, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. No, you got to hear it. You're recording tomorrow, you got to hear it. I said, okay. So he came in and played it. And I liked it. So the next morning when I went up and I told the producer, I said, this guy came to me through the night with a song. And I said, I think it's pretty good. So I had it on the tape recorder. I played it for him. He said, that is good. He said, we'll cut it. So Guy Blonson from Brian's brother, he played the lead for me on the session.
Okay.
Little Ray Muse, he played some harmonica.
Right.
And we had Stan Muse from Tuscany. He passed away here 2 years ago from COVID. He was down in Florida. He was still living in Ontario. And I had a bass player and a drummer from New Brunswick, and a girl from the guy's wife, the bass player's wife from New Brunswick. So we cut that in 2 takes. And it turned out, they put it out in as a extended play, which that's a record. It's a 45 with 4 songs on it.
Right. Yeah.
And it was on jukeboxes, and it was in the top 40s. It was last I remember was number 32. And it was a big song for the East Coast because the Newfies went crazy over it.
And thus you get this record, Newfie Girl, which is the
Newfie
album.
Girl, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Right. Tell me the story you told me before about going to Nashville, to the Orchid Lounge.
About 3 or 4 months later, I was in Nashville, and I did a recording in there. And I walked into a popular bar, which is the one that all the musicians used to walk in from the Ryman through the back door to have their drinks.
Yeah, I played there many years ago.
Yeah, it's called Tootsie's Orchid Lounge. And when I walked in, the band was taking a break because I wanted to hear them, and I knew Tootsie because she came to Toronto several times. Anyhow, some guy walked up to the jukebox and put some money in the jukebox. Lo and behold, what starts to play? Newfie Girl. Newfie Girl that I recorded is playing on a jukebox in Nashville.
That has to be quite a feeling.
Couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I said, I wonder how many other places have it. But it was all over jukeboxes across Canada.
Now, after the Newfie Girl success, this Just Plain Roger, was the album that followed that.
Yeah.
How long after that? This was, what, 1970?
1970, that was 71.
Okay.
They put that one out. Yep, shortly after. But this was the biggie.
Now, as a result of that, when you're playing 6 nights a week, it's not like you can play any more.
No.
So it just kind of helped to fuel your continuing, efforts, I guess.
I traveled all over Ontario and half of the States. We played upstate New York quite a bit, and I was down in Florida. And I was down in Nashville. Nashville is a place I'd love to live. That's where Eddie Eastman lives now. Yes. He's moved down there. And it was around that same time that his Highway 401 East came out, I think. It was in those years that a lot of people were getting breaks. Yes. And you had to have 30% content Canadian.
Exactly, on the radio.
And you had to be union to get radio airplay.
Yep.
So we were union, and I didn't have any contacts with the DJs up there. I didn't know that many down there. CFGM was the big station.
Yes, yep.
That was the big country station. Yeah.
Now, how long did all of this last for you? I mean, you ended up back here. At what point did it become time for you to leave Ontario and head back to the East Coast?
We moved back here back in 1980.
Okay.
And my wife didn't like, we had 5 children.
Right.
And I was on the road 300, 400, 500 miles from home for 3 weeks here, 3 weeks there. Some places where you were near enough, you drive back on the weekend, Saturday night, and go back on Monday to finish off. But she raised the 5 kids by herself, might as well say.
And you're spending that much time on the road and in the evenings.
Yeah, that's
you're
right,
just
yeah.
not around.
No, that's right. So she did not like the business. So we ended up back in Yarmouth.
Tell us a little bit about this. I have to show this, but this is the Nutt Brothers. It's a comedy duo, and if you're looking really closely, that's a much younger Roger Bourque. Tell me a little bit about the Nutt Brothers.
What happened? I met this guy. This is Eddie Eastman's brother, Kevin Rosso.
Right.
And he passed away here 4 or 5 years ago. But he moved back to Newfoundland when I moved back down here about the same time. And I met him. I forget how I met him at a party, but we got together as a duo because I wanted to get off the road.
Right.
And we started doing a duo. And we were called the Nutt Brothers, Chestnut and Walnut. And once in a while we'd have a girl come up on stage, Hazel.
Right. Hazelnut.
Hazelnut.
Yes, of course.
And there were 3. Usually there's one straight man in a comedy act. Well, there were no straight guys with us. It was 2 nuts.
Straight out comedy.
Yeah, straight. Yeah, and
Now,
we played the Brown Derby,
right.
on the Yonge Street, and the Zanzibar, which are popular clubs down there.
Right.
And we were in Brockville 18 times. Sarnia, we traveled.
Now these were long gigs too. Like for example, you were saying that poster is from the Carriage House. Well, you'd be there for 3-week stretches, right?
Yeah. That was a good one. Saturday nights, the train would go by at 2 o'clock in the morning. And Monday morning, it would leave Toronto at 9 o'clock, so we could go home on the train. And we got to know the conductor. So we traveled free in the same the same car that Queen Elizabeth would ride in, because they would bring trains to Toronto for long weekends and all this, extra cars, and we traveled in style, especially from Brockville.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Now you went 1980. Let's move to 1980. You moved back east. You continue to play. I know that you worked otherwise, and it was not as much. It wasn't as busy. But you've been playing as long as I've known you, and it probably was around 1980.
Yeah.
You've always played.
Well, I played with a few different bands around here. I wanted to get my own band, but all the musicians were taken. I mean, the good ones, they were all taken. So I played with a few of the bands. Blue Country was one, and Over was another one, and I played with Vic and the Boys. We used to play at all those seniors' homes, and yeah. So I kept my fingers more nimble than they are now. But and I did all the coal shed festivals up until 2 years ago when COVID cut them back.
Right.
But now I'm at the stage where they're just collector's items.
A little harder to play.
They're collector's items.
Tell me a little bit about this before we leave.
Oh, yes,
this is your guitar strap.
Yeah. We were playing in Kapuskasing, which is way, way up north.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in March, and it was cold. This lady, she lived on the reserve. She was 89 years old, and she was there every night. And she said, "I'm going to make you a guitar strap." Well, I said, "That'd be nice." I was ready to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So she made me that guitar strap with its moose hide and beads.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of work making those.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I treasure that. 89 years old. She had nimble fingers.
How old are you now?
I stopped counting a few years ago. But if you reverse it, I'd be 38.
There you are. 38 at heart.
83. It's only a number.
That's right, it is.
But I don't mind the age. My brain says go, but my body says whoa. But it's the side effects that get me.
Yeah, no question about it.
That's what gets me.
Roger, thanks so much for talking to us today.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
I wonder how many people back in Ontario in those years and through this days that remember my travels out there and the song Lucy Girl.
Well, here's hoping.
I'd be curious to find out how many people are still alive that would remember.
Well, if anybody out there remembers, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, especially me.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you, Wayne.
Front of me, you set my heart a whirl. I'm going home to marry me a new figure. I chased trains in Montreal, heading